Good afternoon, everyone. We'll be getting started shortly. We're going to have a great evening this afternoon. I hope that your weekend has been as great as mine has been. Um, I see you're already signing on. Hello, how are you? Marsh, good seeing you. We'll have many others on this afternoon. Jackie will be signing on with us real soon. How are you doing? Great, good seeing you also. Jackie, I see you just signed on. That's great. Let's get her signed in here. So we have a lot happening this month. A lot going on. Hey, Jackie, how are you?
I'm wonderful, and yourself?
Hey, I'm doing great, great, great. How are things in the sunny South Florida?
Hot.
Hot. Well, we're getting plenty of storms here in Atlanta. Um, just a lot of rain, and some tornadoes have hit down for those who are on. So things are kind of active here with the weather.
Wow. Well,
Yeah,
you guys stay safe. I do hear there are tornadoes and all kind of things moving throughout the South. I'm
yeah.
headed that way tomorrow morning
So where are you headed?
to Mississippi. Well, I'll be
Hey,
flying into New Orleans, actually.
okay, that's great. That's great. Are you going to stay over in New Orleans, or are you just going to go there just to get?
I'm going to go from New Orleans to Jackson, Terry, actually, Terry, Mississippi.
Okay, great, great. Hey, listen, have a safe trip there. Nothing like going home, is it?
Nothing like being at home. Can't wait.
All right, great. Well, Jackie, we have a lot to talk about tonight, but before we get into the discussion, I want to mention that it's kind of interesting that this month is a National Mental Health Month,
Oh,
right?
wow.
And National Mental Health Month starts from May 1 throughout May 31st. But so I'm really hoping that we actually take heed to that. And it's kind of interesting. Every month for us is mental health, and every week we're always talking about it. So we don't have to do a special emphasis on it. Hi, Janae, how are you? Thank the rest of you all for signing on with us also. So, Jackie, we don't have to wait until a month to talk about these kind of things because everything we talked about, am I right? We have
That's
been
right.
dealing with this, But I want to make sure our audience is aware that this is National Mental Health Month. And everything we do, Jackie, and you always like to reference children. So as we're talking about our mental health and thinking about our mental health, make sure that we're talking about our children's mental health also, because children, our motto is children are our priority.
Right.
All right. So, Jackie, also I want to mention that you were on this weekend. So why don't you tell the great news about this past weekend?
Dr. Miles, this weekend, this Saturday morning from 10 to 12 was really very nice. We had a small but very dedicated audience, and we covered a range of topics. There were three breakout sessions, and just every last one of them very impactful. We heard back from participants who said the information they received was helpful and that they learned a lot, and probably like the presenters, myself, and Dr. Bell, we're looking forward to doing it again.
Well, you were so excited about what happened. You didn't even tell me the name
I
of
didn't tell.
the summit, but it's called the Children Our Priority Virtual Summit. This is the first one we actually sponsored, folk, and it turned out very, very well. We're very happy to have all of you all, those who could attend, to be on. And it's kind of interesting. People were still signing up as of yesterday. Now, you all know the conference is over, right? It wasn't a 5-day conference. It was a 4-hour conference, but people are still signing up today. And for those foster parents who are listening to us tonight, don't worry about it. Send me your requests. I'll make sure you get those training hours. I'll get those out to you by Friday. And Jackie, very interesting. I have one viewer who sent me a list of training sessions they've been attending. They documented it. And I said, well, good Lord, they waited this long, but I love them. They're the Marshes. They have they've not missed any of our shows almost, and have not gotten any credit for it. So I'm gonna need you to help me. They got a whole lot of hours they have to get. So I want you to help me do that. But I want to thank the Marshes for really
At
supporting
least
us.
they
And they
have
were,
a
and
they kept a record. That's excellent.
they kept a record, and they were actually in the summit on last week. So again, we're very excited about it. And for those who are new to us, we are going to start having those summits on a quarterly basis. So we have a fall summit, we'll have a summer summit, we'll have a winter summit, and a spring summit. And Jackie, we jumped into this thing because we're so excited about everything. we've not introduced ourselves. So for those who have not been on for the first time, I'm Dr. Willie Miles. I am the president of Dr. Willie Miles Children's Foundation that's located right here in Atlanta, Georgia.
Right, and I am Jacqueline Hampton Clemens, educator, and I'm located in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
And Jackie, you can see my youngest son signed on. He's the faithful one. He's just signs on to all of our lives. Hi, Leon. Thanks for signing on with us. Happy to see that you are supporting us. I can't support you on yours because you're starting at 8 o'clock and I'll be old and sleep by then. All right. So, Jackie, let's get started. You know, it's kind of interesting. We're talking about divorce and how it affects children. You know, it's not so amazing. I think many parents talk divorce, but they have no idea of how it does impact children. So, Jackie, before we begin our discussion, I didn't give you this, but let me give you a little data, folk, and this is just amazing. In the United States, Jackie, every 36 seconds, someone gets divorced.
Wow.
In the United States, every 36 seconds, someone is divorcing. Nearly 2,400 divorcees per day. I'm going to slow it down for you. I'm going to slow it down for you. And Jackie, we have about over 16,000 divorces annually.
Wow.
So we got a whole lot of people divorcing. Yeah, we got a whole lot of people divorcing. I'm saying every 36 seconds, someone is divorcing. And what's so interesting about the data is that the average length for someone to be married is 8 years.
Wow.
And then something happens. Hi, Peggy and Rico.
Right after that 7-year itch, they call it.
Well, I'm not sure it's a 7-year itch or a 7-year scratch, but something needs to stop itching and something needs to stop scratching because we're going to deal with how it affects children, right?
Right.
So all of our focus, when we talk about adults, our interest is how what you do affects children. And I think our graphic artist was really awesome this week. He said, like, you know, children see what you do. You know, you can say things are going to be all right, but children see what you do. And I think all of you all already know that. But this is a Jackie, an area that I'm very passionate about, and not passionate about the divorces, but I'm really passionate about how it affects children, how sometimes as adults, Jackie, we don't think it. We just get divorced. You know, to heck, you know, the kids will get over it. Well,
yeah, and I was going to say, I think the prevalence plays in multiple ways. I think because it's prevalent, you know, sometimes parents think, oh, it's okay, we don't really need to do anything, the kids are fine, because everyone's used to it. But then there really are issues and particular ways that it should be dealt with.
Well, think about it. Check it. We're talking about if they've been talking to each other, somebody's going to be fine. Many of these divorces are ending so hostile. The parents are not even, they're so busy fighting each other that no one's explained to the children because in their mind, the kids will get over it.
And I also wonder, like, how often they're giving actual consideration. You know, many divorces have to go through counseling. They have waiting periods. So I'm wondering if the children and their need to adjust is considered at the time the divorce is discussed and executed.
Well, I want to deal with it from a if it's discussed, and we have to define what discussed is. And just discuss is, you know, it could be, guess what, mom and dad are getting a divorce. You know, it has nothing to do with y'all. Y'all just be cool. You're gonna be fine. To some parents, that's a discussion.
That's true.
But it's not that. It's not that you're divorcing. Hey, but I'm over here. I'm still part of it. And as you're going through that process, I'm going through processes also. Right. Right.
And the child now has a new normal, you know, and what are we doing to help children adjust to the new normal? You know, we'll get into this, and you and I try to leave our personal information out, but I had an adjustment at 22 years old. So.
Don't tell it all. Don't tell it all. Don't tell it all. But I do think your personal is going to be going to add to this right here. But I want to stick around for a second. I want to stick around with the divorce occurring, and the mom and dad are divorcing, and I don't want to assume it's just a mom and a dad. It could be same-sex partners that are divorcing, which is another topic we should explore. Right. But the issue is that every 36 seconds, and I won't say a family's being destroyed because that's an assumption. We're assuming that divorces destroy families, and I'm not going to pass that judgment.
But the family structure is changing.
Right. I'm not going to pass that kind of judgment. But people,
Right.
the key is I want you to get this in your, I want you to feel this. Jackie, 80 over 800,000. The number is actually 876,000 families couples divorce each year. But as we're showing our shock, I want to get
At the
into
numbers, right?
the impact on children. So Jackie, why don't you start talking a little bit about the emotional problems the kids have, and I'll sort of like jump in as we get
Okay.
started.
So what they talk about is that probably the most widely known and most visible effects of divorce on children are emotional issues that come up, and typically around the initial split. And these can linger for years if they're not addressed. Children may become withdrawn. Children may cry a lot. Children may act out and those sort of things. But just the fact that there is an emotional response when parents separate.
Well, the thing about it is that usually before the a divorce, there usually sometimes it's a separation, and sometimes there is just a physical separation within the same household. So the
Right.
kids still had mom is one room, the dad is in the other room, and the parents agreed to, well, we're over with. I want to, I don't want you to leave because of the kids, and I do think sometimes that's a very bad decision, assuming that the kids don't know what's going on. And sometimes
Right.
it's better for the children that the parents do split up. When they start seeing all the negativity, they start
Right.
seeing all the hostility, and it's not that it becomes a toxic environment for the child. And Jackie, just think, it's toxic for the parents. They can't stand each other, or they're having problems. But what is it like for the child? And you said it beautifully. Many children experience a lot of a lot of emotional issues. Some of them we talked about many times over, Jackie. The anxiety, mood disorders. They go into shock. And guess what? Oftentimes, Jackie, they don't say anything to anybody. They just go about their lives as if they're all cool. And
Because they don't know, and
yeah.
also perhaps because the parents are pretending that everything is fine. A lot of times we talk at children as opposed to talking with them.
Right.
And like I said, you plan the divorce, but you don't plan the adjustment, for that child. And
Right.
Dr. Miles, you're the professional here. Do you think that therapy should always accompany divorce for children?
Well, it's amazing. You go right to that segue I was going to say that, in many of our live streams, I actually define what trauma is. And
Right.
trauma is any incident that has caused a life-changing effect upon an individual, a negative life-changing.
So then
So the divorce is a what?
It's a trauma. It's a
It's a
traumatic
trauma.
experience.
It's a trauma.
Right.
And it's a trauma for the child, because the child, Jackie, oftentimes is not able to go through and talk about what they're feeling, and the issue of, am I the fault, and so forth. The parents are processing it because they fussing each other. You to blame. You're the one who tipped out. So they're actually getting it out of their system. But the child is not processing because no one's talking to him. Or as you said eloquently, they're talking at the child versus having the child to understand. So parents and those who are listening, I want you to understand what I'm saying tonight. And I'm talking kind of fast. I'm going to slow it down. But divorces, Jackie, divorces are traumatizing for children.
Right. Yeah.
And Jackie, I'm going to say this, that the parent normally gets someone who works with them on family relationships, right? Our family adjustments.
Right.
That's fine. But I think y'all know me well enough, right? I'm a trauma person.
Right.
So I treat these things as trauma, which they're a whole lot more serious. So I was going to say,
when we do that, Dr. Miles, then we know that we need more than everything's going to be okay.
Yeah. And
at that point, you're forcing the child, I think, to be an adult. And because you hear so much, it's a very common phrase that, children bounce back.
Yeah.
They'll be okay. Yes, but with help, with treatment, with the right support to be okay. They're just not automatically okay.
And when.
Right. Right. But think about it now. Under any other circumstance, if a child's home is disrupted, we know that's traumatic, right? if it
Right.
burns down, if there's a fire, a flood,
It's a trauma.
it's trauma. We know that, but somehow we're not connecting that home changed with that divorce, and so what was there is kind of broken down. Even if something's going to come in and replace it, it is a traumatic experience, and that child's home and foundation have been adjusted. They're not the same.
Jackie, we're gonna get you. We're gonna get you to be a licensed clinical social worker. I mean, you're doing this thing beautifully because what you did, you eloquently showed how if the house burns down, where divorce, the house is what? Burning
Gone.
down.
Right.
It's
The
burning
home
down
as
because
that child knew it is no longer there.
exactly.
So, and I was doing that to help parents realize the impact of change.
Right.
You know,
And
that traumatic change on a child.
right. And I think I'm going to say, change is wonderful and change is inevitable, but traumatic change can
Well,
be devastating. It can be
and Dr. Miles and
devastating.
I think about this because you just said something. Change is inevitable and change happens. Even in organizations, when there is change, there is major effort, okay, exerted to help everyone adjust to change. It could be a change in leadership. It could be a change in direction for the company. It could be a change in software, okay? And
Right.
there is, there is planning, there is training, there's so much that happens to adjust to change. So how is it that we don't recognize that a child, when dealing with a major change in their life, would not also need the same thing, a plan, strategies, systems in place to help adjust to the change?
Jackie, I do want to say that Wayne Noggle has joined us tonight, and Wayne was scheduled to do the workshop on this past Saturday on fostering. And Wayne is he's a very well-known person here in not just in Atlanta, probably across the country. And what he does, he has a not-for-profit, which is called Families for Families. Okay. And they actually placed the child placement agency, and they actually place children in foster care. And it's from I'm not saying it's from a Christian, but it's from a spiritual perspective, and they give a lot of support. So Wayne, I want to give you a shout out and thank you for joining us. And of course, Faithful Father is on tonight with us also. So, but all of you all are important. I just want to call out these folks. All right. Okay, right. Great. Let's go back to our conversation on divorces and how it affects children. But Jackie, what I don't want to rush through this because I think it's really important. As you said, many people don't see the seriousness of it. And also you gave that business example about the software. Changing software drives some folk crazy. Right. They quit the job.
Companies have to invest a lot to make it work. And so to keep the company sustainable, yeah, and help everyone adjust.
And so to keep your family sustainable, even now, not just after the divorce, but during the divorce, there has to be a lot of investment in conversation. There has to be a lot of investment in reassurances. There has to be a lot of reinvestment in having the child understand that it's not because of you that it's happening. Mom and dad, we figured out 2 years ago that he's better off without me. I'm better off without him. We're still going to talk to each other. You're still part of a family. But again, being part of a family to the child means like, well, wait a minute now. We ain't no one family now. He's over here and he's dating and you may be dating and then marriages. But I don't want to get there yet because we're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about the child having to adjust to these other families. I want to talk about the effects still, Jackie. What about the long-term effects?
I mean, Dr. Miles, I think about it. The long-term effects, especially untreated, are just scary. A lack of trust, a lack of sense of stability, and those things act out in many ways, which I'm sure you can actually describe better than me. Someone who doesn't feel stable, someone who's not sure of where their place is. Because now, with zero communication, let's be clear, that child does not know. If that child is not told that they're loved by both parents, if that child is not told, has no reflection on you. And the one thing that we both are still maintaining is you. The one thing that we both agree on is still you. The one thing that we're still collective on and joined on is you, or you all. So without those words, keep in mind that child has been destabilized.
Well, Jackie, when you say that, we're hoping for the best. because oftentimes that child is then used for a pawn. And again, we have so much to talk
and we're
about.
going to get to that,
Yeah,
right? So we're
look,
just
we have so much
establishing.
to talk about. I'm really trying to get it all in at one time, but I do want to slow it down a little bit, and I want to slow it down, Jackie, for those people who just came on and they didn't hear
Right.
that the shocking number that every 36 seconds a divorce happens in the United States. Every 36 seconds a divorce happens in the United States. Nearly 2,400 divorces happen per day. 2,400 divorces happen per day. 16,000 divorces happen per week. Per week.
That's insane.
Over 876,000 divorces occur on an annual basis. The average length of a first marriage usually starts having problems after the 8 years.
Wow.
So you have the data.
Point, right, that you're making is that, one, it affects children, right? Yeah. And that's just under any circumstance. And then we get into some of the, better situations, and then some of the not so better situations.
Hi, Joyce. I want to mention also, Jackie, as we're talking about how it affects children, right? And we talk about how it affects children. We talk very generally, right? But think about this. It affects how they get along with their peers. It affects their education. It affects social relationships. It affects behavioral problems. It affects academic achievement. Now, that's according to what the child is developmentally. I'm talking about, here we are, have a child in the first grade, first up to even up to the sixth grade. But guess what? Even children who are older,
right,
it affects them in all those ways.
Right.
So this one action that parents have taken can affect a child's total well-being, the total well-being.
And it could be indefinite if it's not treated as a child or an adult. And one of the other things that I think is important about separating, sometimes when the nucleus family is together, right, you may have a parent who takes a lead, but because they're all there together, that works. When they separate, one of the things that I pulled and that stood out for me in our research is that it's important for each parent to develop a relationship with that child. Mm-hmm. So, let's say the dad stayed home and the mom worked. So the dad had a relationship, but the mom was there and she was supported. Well, in that divorce, that mom now, who has kind of not been an absent parent, but who's been the supportive parent, now has to build her own relationship, directly with that child. And I think that's really important, whether it's the mom or the dad that's outside or, whichever role. It's important now to not think that you can still connect to your child through your former spouse. And I do see that a lot.
Yeah. The thing about it is that I think what I'm going to do for, not for our next session, but to sort of outline this is the phases of divorce. Because, we see divorce as the finality, but it really is a process. It's a process. And the divorce is a process from beginning until end. And guess what? We have to ask ourselves a question. Well, really, where's the end? For children, there is no end. For children, you're still mom and dad, and there's some hopeful or some wishful thinking that, guess what, you get back together and that you can be this one family again. But the goal is really to make sure that the child understands the process, and that, because otherwise they will treat this as grieving. They'll treat it as death, like I've lost someone. Well, you haven't lost anyone. The only thing that has happened is the dynamics changing. Now, Jackie, you and I can sit here and talk about these things like it's so like they're going to happen, right? But there are many divorces that they're turbulent.
Right.
They're turbulent. Even in the process, you got domestic violence, you got threats, you got all kinds of stuff going on.
Right. And sometimes, Dr. Miles, the child is the one that's actually kind of asked to be the adult, and the child has to say, yes, mom, I'm okay with you. Yes, dad, I'm okay with you. And sometimes those children are, even when they accept this separation, they're trying to keep the peace.
I get angry. I'm a therapist. I ain't supposed to get angry, but I get angry. You know why? Because that child ends up dealing with more than the divorcing parents.
Yes.
The divorcing parents are dealing with themselves, one and one, right? I was about to say 1 and 2, 1 and 1.
And a loss of one, right?
Yeah,
So that
but the child is dealing with the split. The child is dealing with, was it me? The child is dealing with anger, frustration, sadness,
learning to new
depression.
environments because they are different. Often having to meet additional people and have additional people in their lives. I mean, you really have to kind of, you know how you get on your knees or whatever and look at it from the child's point of view. You really have to get into that child's perspective to really understand the trauma that they go through.
Now, again, I know you're not just being, I know I'm being overly dramatic. I know I'm just saying it's like doom, 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 doom. Because when I see the kids in therapy, Jackie, it is doom for them. It is doom for them. And what I like to say that there is a light at the end of the rainbow, not the rainbow tunnel, right? At the end of the tunnel. I shouldn't try to use these cliches. I mess them up every time. All right. So,
right.
But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. But what we're trying to do is to impress upon you the seriousness of divorces. And I'm sure y'all were just like we were. Look at how many occur.
Yeah.
And Jackie, before you go further, I like to say this, Jackie, also that one of our topics should be why this occurs. Why are we having this many divorces? You know, and so, but anyway,
I don't even know if we can tackle that one, Dr. Miles.
Well, we can't tackle it. We can't tackle it in an hour, but we can tackle it. It may be a 6-month series,
right, but exactly. That's a series.
So, yeah. So at this point, I think we share with y'all the some of the impact. I do want to say that some children are resilient. They bounce back. You know, the key is how you handle it. Now, like mom, you can't like you know where I'm going, Jackie, right? Like mom, your daddy was no good. He was also a hoe. So guess what? That's why it ended. And you know I couldn't have him here because I love you so much. Because I love you so much, I'm getting rid of him. Now, what is that to tell a child?
It's a bit shocking to think that any parent would share that with their child, but I guess it does happen.
What did somebody say? Who said like read my lips? I'm telling you, I'm dealing with kids in therapy. So it's happening. And then dad gets a child, Jackie. Now this is even before the divorce. You tell me if anybody coming to visit your mom over there. You know, you tell me if the money I'm giving her plenty of money to buy you clothes and stuff. That's just before the divorce. Plenty of money. Now, is she buying you clothes or what is she doing? And so what happens, Jackie, it puts that child in this.
Child's in the middle.
In the middle.
Child is in the middle. But those same people would say, oh, no, they're not in the middle. I comment, that's part of me building my relationship with them, my new relationship. Right. So I do think, and I don't know, I think in some cases it's ordered, but, if it's not in all cases, parents really should be required to take a course. Parents with children who divorce should be required to take a course on how to divorce with children.
Do you see my face? They should also be taking a course on should you be having children. So there you
go again with them big old giant topics.
The point is that parents should be having a course on everything. But again, and I don't want to be so hard on parents, but I want them to have them be more sensitive. And I'm sure that many of our viewers are probably they know someone who's gone through divorce. Let's do a little let's do a little survey. How many of you all know someone who's gone through divorce? Just say I have in your comment box. Faithful Father just wrote, Jackie, one of the worst things about dealing with the divorce is watching it implode right in front of your eyes. Great comment.
Right.
How it implodes.
And, parents should also not really consider divorcing without therapy. I don't care about the circumstances, but when you have children, it's like a therapist should be a required part of that. Because Dr. Miles, I think they need to talk through. Okay, so we're talking about, you talk to the child, and make sure you consider the child. But again, you're talking about two people who are separating. So if they're not doing that together, right?
Well, Jackie,
you still have two different philosophies working.
Check this out. Well, you're talking about having the therapist for the kids. The parents have never had no therapy. They don't even, they scared the therapist.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Therapy should be required.
So the kids are really in trouble.
They are, and we're seeing it. We're seeing it at school. We're seeing it act out. some of our research shows that a lot of times it's children of divorce who are more likely to be divorced.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So
But
part of your question about why it's so prevalent is because it kind of, procreates. It no pun intended, but divorce can lead to divorce.
well, the Marsh family said it would be awesome to be mandated. It would be awesome to be
Yes.
mandated. That, and I'm not sure it's not, but I know
It's not
coming
in
through
all
us,
instances.
we're not getting any mandates from the courts that says it. I'm going to say that with Jackie, we do see the effects of it on children, and some of the other things that how it affects children. And eventually, I'd like to talk about this developmentally. So I may have to have a part two to this discussion, Jackie.
I think so.
But it is, what is stability to a 6-year-old? What is stability to a 9-year-old? What is stability to a 15-year-old? And what is stability to an 18-year-old? Now, Jackie, you and I both know folk who have families who have gone through divorce, right?
Right.
They 35, still feeling it.
Oh yeah, and not just feeling it. Matter of fact, on one of the shows, one of the Time to Love, Ready to Love something. Mm-hmm. One of the gentlemen said, and I don't really watch that show, but I happened to see this piece. He said he's looking for someone who'll stay. Okay? This man is in his 40s. An indication that he's dealt with divorce and separation before. And because of that, it's difficult for him to commit because he's afraid people won't stay.
That's a good point. I'm going to stay on this. I'm going to stay on this lack of stability. And I see the Marsh family wrote another comment. It says families in transition are supposedly mandated for spouses, but nothing for children involved for the state of Georgia.
Yeah. Yep.
Jack, I want to talk a little bit further about this lack of stability with children and what does that mean? And not only what does it mean, Jackie, but how long does it go on? And you and I both know that without some sort of intervention, it goes on for a minute, right? A minute means a long time.
Right.
And so when you talk about lack of stability, the child is not only going through the lack of stability for the divorce, but guess what? That child could be going through the lack of stability from puberty. Are you with me?
Right.
That child could be going through the lack of stability because of his previous anxiety, because of all the hell he went through, heard mom and dad argue in the house. Right. Are you with me?
Right.
Yes. So the child's going to be having multiple kinds of
emotional trauma.
Emotional traumas. And we say that he'll be all right. He'll be all right. They just kids. He'll get over it. Huh?
He or she will adjust.
He'll adjust. Right.
And then it gets internalized because
exactly.
You've got to then, like you were pointing out, Dr. Miles, children are also going through other things, not just their parents' divorce. And now they don't have that stability or nowhere to turn. Peer pressure is real at every grade level, right? And so now you feel different. Now you don't know. This is another thing. Children don't know what's going to happen when you divorce. Even when you say, mom's going to live here, dad's going to live, because they've been destabilized, they don't know if they can trust that. And so they live kind of, in a state of fear and worry. Will a parent decide they don't want me if they no longer want, each other?
Well, not only that, but the thing that's kind of interesting about it is that not just the lack of stability and the trying to understand myself, but will they get remarried? Will I have to go and stay with them and dealing with, I want custody, she wants custody, 50% custody, supervised custody. It's just in the middle. The child in the middle again.
Yes.
And I think, Jackie, the reason we're saying this is because we're wanting our viewers to be more sensitive to divorcing. And we're not saying don't do it, it's your life. But we're saying make sure you're aware of how it affects children. And that's what the foundation is all about. And that's why we say that our priority are children. Children are our priority. So everything that happens, everything that we do, we will make sure that we're focusing on the impact that it has on children. Jack, you want to read that with Faithful Father's
comment is a good one as well. And this is true. And I have, children in their early 20s, and this is an issue that's why we have a generation of young adults who don't want to get married. And that is very real, and that means some having children out of wedlock because they don't, because of the failure of marriage. And interestingly enough, young adults can quote some of this information. They'll tell you half of marriages end in divorce, so why bother? So that's a very good point.
Well,
I also wanted to point out, Dr. Miles, if I can throw this in before you
sure.
comment,
Mm-hmm.
Emotional impact of divorce. Young children often struggle to understand why they must go between two homes. Okay, so if you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, that goes to that thing of that co-parenting. The emotional impact of having to have two personalities. I gotta have one personality for dad's house and one personality for mom's house, and then I gotta find myself. That's a heck of a lot for a kid.
I gotta help mom and I gotta help dad. I gotta make them think I'm okay.
Yeah, that's a whole lot if you're also going through puberty. But even if you're not going through puberty, it's not developmentally appropriate for children, under age 10 to be doing this kind of stuff. It's not appropriate for them to have all these thinking capabilities because cognition doesn't fully kick in, until the fourth stage, until young adulthood. So you're asking a child to be able to understand all these things, all these steps, and be okay with it. Now you're talking about the emotional impact. Let's go to it again. Insecurities, relationship issues, mood disorders, anger,
instability that shows up in other areas. Continuity. Let's talk about schoolwork and how it used to be done, but being done differently now in the two different homes, different times, different eating routines.
Well, how it impacts the teenagers is that sometimes they become very angry.
Right.
And they decide they don't want to be with either of them. And I think it's important that parents see this. And those of you who have gone through having parents who are divorced and you have had to go to those two different families, you know what I'm talking about. It's like you have to prepare yourself 2 days in advance to go into dad's house, or 2 days in advance to go to mom's house, or the parent you're staying with has more dominance over you. And we're just hoping they're the parent who really cares for you and want to make sure that your emotional well-being is okay. Because they would talk you through it. In other words, they would not say anything bad about dad. And you're not asking the child to spy on dad when you're visiting him, and vice versa. But the impact is just it's heavy for teenagers. It's even heavy for the adults. We have a comment from Janae here. She said, I've been going through 2 divorces and my girls were younger at that time, but once they hit their teens, they began to act out. So I placed them in counseling, and I also continue to have a life coach. Guess what, Janae? Kudos to you. So counseling has helped us all. Kudos to you. And you must have a good therapist. You must have a good counselor. Keep them there as long as they feel they want to be there. You're doing the right thing. All right.
The absolute best thing, yes.
Yeah. You have any more comments? Anyone else? While you're getting your comments up, Jackie and I will keep talking about this. I'm going to call it, Jackie, a phenomena. The phenomena of
by sheer numbers, yes.
Every 36 seconds.
Now, and we have to get this in, Dr. Miles. We've yet to talk about the addition of a step-parent.
Well, that's another story. Why did I choose this topic? It's too much to talk about. I need a whole month to cover this stuff.
Yeah, that could be its own session, because the addition of step parents, and sometimes now 2 step parents, right?
Yeah.
You got one on either end, and we're asking the child to just be.
Guess what, Jack? You know what? Now you talking about only step parents, but what happened when the additional children started coming?
Oh.
So you got 2 sets of siblings.
Yes. Yep.
Now, I'm going to say this, but I got to be careful. It really is not like, I'm not laughing at this. It reminds me of almost like foster care. I go to this home and adjust to these families, and then they children.
Which was another home.
Then I got another family go here. And I can't voice my opinion about either one of them because they're both my mom and my dad. If I
can't complain because
I can't complain.
It's just the way it is.
I can't complain. So I go to home and home, each of them. And either home I'm not comfortable being because I can't be me.
Right. And in both homes, parents insist that things have to be their way. Rarely do parents provide continuity between the homes, i.e., coordinate that the chores are the same, that the study hours are the same, so that the child knows whether you're here or here, what you do remains the same.
And or if the values are the same.
If the values are, that's big.
If the values are the same, and many parents, the parents who have custody of men, the women who have custody of the children, they're trying to deal with what caused the divorce, and do I want my child to be a part of that? Are you with me?
Yes.
If it was infidelity, do I want my child to be subjected to that? And do I talk to the husband and wife about what the discussion should be?
But that's where counseling has to come in. And parents have to move themselves out of the way, because what the adult is saying is, I don't like that there was someone else, and then the child starts being a pawn. So not my child either. Well, maybe your child doesn't have an issue with the other person. Maybe your child actually likes the other person. We have to learn to separate your feelings, right, from your child.
Yeah. But I'll talk about the parents. Like, it's hard to do that because the parents are going through their own emotional whirlwind. The house, who keeps the house, who keeps the car, what are the finances like, how has this divorce redefined me? And
Right.
so they're so busy. Well, I don't want to assume that neither one are going through it, but somebody's going through this and trying to figure out, how do I balance all this and keep the sanity of my household? 3 children, 3 different schools.
Disparities in income at this point? What about one home that has less amenities than the other? I've seen that a lot.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
One parent is struggling, maybe staying with their parents, and the other one moves on, gets a big house, and
well, it's not. It's amenities, but it's also which one can buy the child and buy their love. That kind of thing.
Yes.
I can buy everything you need. Mom can't do it, or vice versa. So the key is that I think as responsible adults who are going through not just divorce, but anything in our lives, we need to make sure that we consider our children. Oftentimes people say, let's just stay together for the kids. I don't ever advocate that, people. I don't ever advocate, because usually if your marriage is over and it's turbulent, the kids are going to know it, and you're still going to cause harm to them. So the best thing to do is, Janae say, I would get a counselor right away. I would deal with my stuff with the divorce and let the counselor deal with my children. And I would also, input into like that they're going to be okay, that, that Dad and I are not fighting. We have our own lives. I would do all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Are you with me?
And let them know that the goal is for them to be okay. The goal is, you can't say for your life to not be disrupted, because their life is disrupted. And that kind of leads us, Dr. Miles, to how to help kids. There's one source here. If you could share that source and tell us about some of those.
Well, you're confused me now. You got me out of order. I'm trying to figure out where I am now. But there are many ways
this
that
is
we
about
can
very well families. And
that we can help our children adjust and adapt. But parents, I think that we have to make sure that we're okay. We have to make sure that we're okay. And what I mean by we're okay, I mean that we are sound mind, that we're not talking to the child through emotions and through hurts and through pains. And most certainly don't say this right here. Well, I don't want you to ever go through this. And see, that's why I don't want you to date till you're 25. Just don't do that.
Don't put your life on your children. Do not put your adult life on your children.
When you think about it, we're going to talk about what can you do, because there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And I have to give Very Well Families, the prop for actually pulling this together. And it talks about, like, what can we do as parents who are divorcing? What can we do as parents who are divorcing? And one thing we can do is to make sure we help our kids adjust. Mm-hmm. And let me give you 2 words that I'm actually using with some kids in therapy, having them to understand, Jackie, the difference between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy and empathy. So I'm saying we should have empathy with our children. Empathy is, I know you're hurting. What can I do to help you feel better?
Right.
And so don't forget, empathy requires an action.
Right.
Sympathy is, I know you're hurting, and that's it.
And I feel bad for you. Right.
Yep,
I
yep,
feel bad
yep.
for you. And
And
what you
there,
also described, Dr. Miles, has to take the attention off the parents and what they're going through. You know, so
right.
parents need to be able to step out of anything that's going on with them and get in the space with their children and understand what they're going through.
Well, they need to stop thinking about themselves so much too. And the other part is co-parent peacefully. You know, I give a whole lot of these little tidbits. You know, for my kids who are oppositional, and I tell them the same thing my parents told me. Why you think God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth? So you can talk less
Listen
and listen
twice as
more
much
and
as you
listen
talk.
more. So
That's right.
parents, I want you to stop so much talking at each other, start listening, and consider the impact that you have on your child's development. The big
Get
one.
back to what we talked about at our workshop. Get some resources. Understand those developmental milestones.
Right.
And be prepared. You don't have to be caught off guard by any of it. If you know you're looking at a divorce, you can start preparing and looking for resources on how to help your child or your children adjust.
Maintain healthy relationships. Now that's a difficult one because many of the divorces I'm aware of, they were bad. I mean, they were just bad where the parents couldn't even talk to each other. I mean, it's, you know, only the attorneys were talking.
Right.
So do that as much as you can. Maintain healthy relationships, and you know, yeah, again, parents, you all have common sense. You know, if your situation is a dangerous one, don't put yourself in it. Don't put your child into it. I'm talking about where people come to your house and, my mom used to say, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. Like, for instance, you come pick the child up, but you're bringing your girlfriend to the house. You know, you just, are you with me? Let's do
Right.
things. And the word is
and those
decent.
are the kind of things, Dr. Mouse, that counselors and therapists help parents do. You know, I've been a part of one of those processes, not, you know, someone getting a divorce, but, you know, where people were. And so counselors can help both parents decide, when is it a good time for either of you to introduce someone else to your child, you know, based on where that child might be emotionally. So again, just can't stress therapy, you know, enough.
You know, when we talk about therapists, I have to always go back to this story because just in any profession, there are some good therapists and good counselors. But parents, I would tell you, if you're going through a divorce, I ain't talking about getting no therapist who got experience in relationships. Get a therapist who is has experience in dealing with children who are going through having parents with divorce. That means they have very specific skills. So the key is, I don't want to throw the label out, just get a therapist or counselor, because in every profession there's some good folk and there's some bad ones. So I'm saying, parents, you have the right to specify. If you're dealing with death, I want to get a counselor who has great experience in grief therapy. Are you with me? So you tell them what you're wanting to see and want to have, not just a therapist. But also, it's important, and Jackie, I think you mentioned this previously, is to use consistent discipline.
Yes. Yeah.
Both
Imagine the resentment of, because y'all don't like each other anymore, now I got to get used to 5 rules over there and 5 rules over here. Really? You know?
Jack, guess what? You go to Mississippi and you said y'all. You get prepared already, aren't you?
I guess so, but I'm from Mississippi, so.
No, that's fine.
If you had pointed it out, I would never know I even said it.
No, it's fine though. It's fine.
No,
I'm just saying.
yes, y'all.
You're getting ready to go. You're ready to go home. All right.
Home.
But Jackie, also I think the other thing that we don't do as parents, oftentimes, we talk to our children, but we don't monitor them. Yeah, we don't say, like, how are you doing today? And or if you don't say anything, I noticed that he looked very sad this morning. To yourself, something's wrong with him. I gotta talk to him or her. Something is wrong, right? So monitor your children, monitor their behaviors, monitor the changes in them. Also, this is the big one: empower your children. Empower them. Let them know, first of all, that you're okay.
And you know what is another good thing to empower them, especially if they're little? There are lots of books written on divorce now, and they start at all levels. And so getting a book and sitting with your child is always a good idea, but you can get books that deal with the situation, that help the child know that it's not an unusual process. And through, seeing what the children in books do on divorce, it can help your child feel okay and adjust to change.
Yeah, there is one that we just recently used. I can't think of the name of it, but it's about the child having to live in two different places. How to
Right.
live in two different places. And
Right.
well, the book highlighted that each place was great. And at the end of the day, the key is that the parents were consistent.
Yes.
The parents were consistent. Teach coping skills. And the coping skills don't only come for divorce, it comes as a matter of life. Teach our children how to cope with things, how to deal with things, and how not to fall apart so easily.
Right.
Are you with me?
And you can do that, honestly, it's something you should be doing anyway, but you can do that through different activities. You can do that, you can sometimes do it through sports. You can talk about how you're not always going to win situations. So how do you deal with those emotions? And you can do some art things and allow the child to express themselves through, art. But
Right.
the important thing is to not let it go undiscussed, dealt with, and think that you can say, I'm getting a divorce but I love you, and that everything's going to be okay.
Right. Faithful Father just wrote something, Jackie. You want to read it?
Yes, let's see. When you have to administer CPR, they say make sure you're in a safe place first. Do divorcees have to get in a safe place first? Excellent point, Faithful Father. Excellent point. Get in a safe place first. Same as you do on that airplane. Take care of yourself first and then save others.
Yeah.
Right. Get in a safe place.
Right.
I love that.
It's kind of amazing. He said that the next one is help kids feel safe. Help them feel safe. Help them feel wanted. Help them feel secure. Seek parent education. And some of these things, we're just giving some suggestions on things you can do. Seek parent education.
Now,
The key
that's
is
important, Miles.
Mhm.
I don't think people, of all the things that people do when they're getting a divorce, they look for an
Mhm.
apartment, they separate their accounts, they do what else? How many seek parent education on how to help that child? To
and
help their children.
and lastly, seek help.
What we're always suggesting, let's make a therapy not a stigma for just bad, but a way to deal with that is good. It's a tool that's good. We don't look at band-aids as a bad thing. We look at them as helpful. And so therapy and other forms of help should be looked at positively.
Okay. Well, folks, listen. This is our session for tonight. I felt like a session, a therapeutic session. But I think our goal really is to make sure that you are aware of some issues that our children have when it comes to adult relationships. And you're going to find that each of our sessions, each of our weekly live streams on Let's Talk About It, is going to deal with adult issues and how they affect children. Because oftentimes we deal with the children issues and don't deal with what caused them to get there in the first place.
Right.
And as I shared throughout, that when I provide therapy for children, I tell parents, you need to be getting therapy also. Oftentimes parents want to put their kids into counseling, into therapy, and they're so go and fix them. But I'm saying, wait a minute, we need to help fix you too. I mean, so with my clients, I make sure that not only the child getting counseling, but I tell the parents they must do it also, because it doesn't help the child if you're gonna be the problem. Right. And he's getting help in counseling, but you're still the problem. Right. So again, I think that this was a timely topic, and it's timely because at the numbers we're seeing, the number of divorcees, and again, we don't know all the reasons why people are divorcing, and I don't think that's really the issue. I think the key is how do we teach our children to cope, and how we teach our children to sort of like understand more than what they are seeing. And we have to tell them all the nuances of the whys.
I was just about to say it's important to know how to put it on their level, and it's important to use the right phraseology and the right word.
Right.
So.
Right. So, Jackie, what I did not do it, and I'll admit my errors. I meant to have the list of the other live streams we have for the rest of the month. But next week, we have another awesome topic, and I don't have the list in front of me, and our folks didn't give it to me, so I
Gives
apologize
us
for that.
something to look forward to on Instagram.
Yeah. So we actually send those out to you. They'll probably start going out on Friday of this week. But again, for those who are new, we have these sessions every Tuesday night, 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For the foster parents who are on tonight, please don't wait until 6 months to get things to me now. I'm not throwing any shade out to nobody now. So I'm just saying, get them to me on a monthly basis. I'll give you your hours on a monthly basis. All you have to do is email me. Make sure you do a screenshot of our session, and you'll get your training hours, and the state will be very happy that you got them, and so will I. So will I. So Jackie, do you have anything you want to wrap up with?
Just again, you know my line, be intentional about helping your children through a divorce.
And to our followers, now listen, y'all always talking about y'all like us. Y'all not sharing us. I don't want your likes. I want your sharing. I do want your likes though. I want your likes too.
We
please,
want you to help us grow our audience. We believe this message is important for a lot. We believe you know others for whom our topics would really make a difference in their lives, their daily lives, and the lives of their children. And as you can see, we are committed to reaching as many people. So we are asking our followers to double yourself.
Yeah.
Every week, double yourself. And invite someone. Send the flyer out when you get it. Send it to 5 people. We don't know all the people you know. We can't reach them. But think about how helpful this is to you, and know that there are other families who need help, and we need your help reaching them.
And I'm going to start ending each of our sessions with this. Now, I want y'all to type this into your comment box as you leave us. Jackie and I love y'all. We have some new followers tonight. Thank y'all for Janae. Good seeing you. Thank you for sharing your comments. Faithful Father, you're always there. Wayne Noggle and the Marshes and all the rest of you all. But I want you to type in your comment section. I want you to type it in with an attitude. And the attitude is, I am amazing. Let's do it. Type it in. I am amazing.
I am so amazing.
I'm waiting to see it, folks. Y'all can type faster than that.
I did.
There you go. So amazing. Excellent. Great. I love it. You're amazing.
Let us not forget this.
And as you're doing,
go ahead, Dr.
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Go on.
I was going to say the only way you can raise an amazing child is to be amazing yourself.
Who says I'm basic? No, I know that is. No, you are amazing. I met you already. Retype it. You're not basic. You're amazing. Mona Lisa. All right, listen, folks. We're gonna sign off for tonight. We'll see you next week, same time. Hey, bring a friend next week. It's gonna be an awesome week. And guess what? You guys are amazing. We appreciate you.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Dr. Miles. Until next time.